Welcome everyone to Module 3. The idea and concepts involved in defining both liberty as a state of being and freedom as a part of the human experience and societal constraint have changed over time, which some would consider relatively drastic. We will see that the definition and contrast of liberty versus freedom by Greek, Roman, early Christian, modern Christian, and others may be vaguely related in nature, but also drastically different in meaning and how those concepts were implemented. Let us begin by probing those meanings and usage changes over time, beginning with Athens around 350 BC, with a government that we would possibly recognize as a practicing democracy. Author Moira Walsh, in describing Aristotle's conception of freedom in a journal article of the same name, spends a great amount of time describing what she translates as Aristotle's description of the states of freedom by comparing his comments about the free citizen of Athens, no mention of women, his duties, responsibilities, and need for reason and rationality, as opposed, on the other hand, of the, quote, natural, unquote, slave, who is only responsible for carrying out another's wishes. Obviously, Aristotle is defining freedom by defining what the lack of it really is. By this definition, Ms. Walsh notes that Aristotle would have included employed individuals who would also not be free, for he is also carrying out the wishes of another, whether for pay or not. Thus, if I may attempt to translate here, Aristotle is saying that true freedom is only true if a capable and rational person is carrying out their own wishes, which also happen to be of benefit to others in the community, the polis, at large, which, as we shall see, may also infringe on the future definition of liberty, which was used by Cicero during the time of the Roman Republic. According to author Jeff Kennedy, describing his interpretation of Cicero's use of the Latin libertas, also notes the responsibilities of a Roman citizen that is attached to that concept and use. While citing many examples of usage, Kennedy's interpretation points to the proper use of the concept of liberty as providing the freedom to be a citizen of Rome, supporting the ideals of representative government. Thus also affirming that liberty, which includes, in my opinion, the concept of freedom, must be pointed in a constructive direction to actually be examples of both liberty and freedom. Without that constructive element present, true freedom and thus liberty are non-existent in these points of view. Early ideas of Christian freedom, which of course are defined through the Word of God in the Bible, may have its roots in both Greek and Roman conceptions, or some of its roots, with the idea of God-given free will added to the conceptual mix. By that definition, similar to both Greek and Roman explanations, freedom was only present with the lack of sin, at least in this world. As time has progressed, that argument continues as a debate between free will versus predestination, both of which relate to states of freedom and liberty. Now we come to a modern dictionary level definition, without the philosophical implications added. Simply stated, freedom is defined as the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Liberty adds something to that definition, while liberty adds a social constraint, stating the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Clearly a different overall viewpoint, reflecting the difference typically assigned and associated with each overall concept. Well, I hope this reflection has provided some level of insight into the concepts and current differences between living a life of freedom and living a life within the bounds of societal liberty, and also how those definitions have morphed somewhat over time and cultures. Thank you for your interest and attention.